The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, says Somalia could suffer rates of infant death unseen for half a century as warnings of a looming famine intensify. The number of people now being affected by the worst drought in 40 years has more than doubled, but less than half the money needed to help them has been raised. Climate change and conflict have contributed to severe food shortages across the Horn of Africa. And this map here uses data from a US aid group monitoring famine. And the area, the dark red area down there, is where a full-blown famine is projected within weeks. That means households with no food, children suffering acute malnutrition, and people dying every day from starvation. Our Africa correspondent Andrew Harding has been covering the crisis unfolding in Somalia for weeks, and tonight he reports from the border town of Dolow, where people walk for days to come in search of life-saving help.
We're heading out into Somalia's drought lands, with an armed escort on lookout for Islamist militants. But all we encounter are dying villages. A solitary camel, too weak to stand, marks the entrance to a place called Kahare. A 56-year-old farmer, Ibrahim Shido, takes us to see what's become of his goats. The last of his herd, now dead from hunger. Did you ever imagine your life would end up like this? Never, he says, but when there's no rain, there's no future for this kind of life. And it's not just the animals that are dying. Which is why most villages are emptying fast. Small convoys like this one, setting off in search of food and water. After a long trek, these families have reached the outskirts of a border town called Dolow.
9 days. They have been walking for the last 9 days.
The local authorities have organised tea for the new arrivals. And someone else registers them on a list that's growing by the hour. You get a good idea here of how quickly this crisis is starting to accelerate, with 300 or even 400 people now arriving at this one small camp every day now, and the international aid effort lagging far behind.
There's been a lot of lethargy, actually. Help hasn't been coming. I guess the international community is also looking at other areas where, you know, there's a lot of other things going on in the world as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They've been distracted with a lot of other things going on everywhere.
Some aid is reaching some parts of Somalia. So you all have these telephones, these mobile phones now. These women are getting cash from the United Nations sent directly to their phones. A handy system in a country where a long-running conflict makes humanitarian access so difficult. But it's not enough. Right now, the world is providing less than half of what's needed to save hundreds of thousands of lives.
I mean, I think we're in a completely unprecedented situation here. So we describe the situation here as completely historic in terms of the combination of climatic and conflict effects in the context of something which is so severe, so protracted. This just needs a significantly different level of response.
That means a massive push now to save Somalia from another famine, and a much longer struggle to help it cope with the accelerating ravages of climate change. Andrew Harding, BBC News, Dolow, Somalia.